Okay, welcome back. Hour number 3 on this Friday night. Charlie Robinson steps back up to the microphone, or whatever he's talking into. He's in Las Vegas. Charlie, welcome back.
Hi, Jeff. How are you doing?
I'm hanging in there. It's Friday night. A lot of stuff going on.
Yeah.
Weird stuff, contradictory stuff. The Donald Trump North Korea thing came out today with a different suit of clothes on. For a while there, the White House was trying to backpedal, it seemed, that the president had spoken rather like a loose cannon, and then Trump himself came around to try to snuff that out by saying, yes, we are headed toward talks, and there is going to be progress, and blah, blah, blah. It was a strange day, and you know when there's a little bit of smoke like that, there's a lot of fire in the background. What do you think?
Well, I think I speak for everyone when I say I want to see those two hairstyles next to one another for a picture, because that ought to be something.
That would be funny.
Who is less trustworthy, the American media or the North Korean media?
I'd say the American media. I wouldn't even give it a tie. We can pretty well figure out what the North Koreans are up to. It's not a big mystery. But this group here, playing so many angles, it's really despicable.
Yeah, I mean, I think that when we look at these countries that, for whatever reason, jump into the lead story of the news to be demonized, the first question you just have to ask is, do they have a central bank? Because so many of them over the last decade did not. And so we realize, we've got to go into Afghanistan. We've got to go into Iraq. We've got to go, we've got to get into all these countries. We have a problem with Cuba. We have a problem with North Korea. The common denominator, well, there's two of them. First, the United States being unnecessarily aggressive with countries all around the world. And the second is that they don't have central banks. And so I don't worry that much about North Korea. I know you had Joel Skousen on, and I know he does, and he has more information about this than I. So I would defer to him. So maybe I should be worried about it. But I see this on the news, and I just go, here we go again. Here we go. The manufacturing of an enemy that really probably doesn't threaten us, at least on a day-to-day basis.
No,
it's if you have a problem with North Korea, don't go to North Korea.
That's right. What are they going to do? Seriously, what are they going to do with their nukes? Are they going to use them? If they do, it's absolute suicide forever. It's over. Done.
Yeah. I have read something recently that I had never considered before, and I don't know if it's true, and I would like to emphasize that. But I read that when somebody said that when you say North Korea has nukes, or when you say North Korea this or that, replace the word North Korea with the word CIA. And I thought, wow, that's scary.
Well,
interesting.
Let's go one better. Let's talk about Israel and its 400 to 500, 600 nuclear and thermonuclear weapons. Nobody talks about that. Let's talk about the Samson option. Nobody knows about the Samson option. All right? That's where you need to start doing your homework.
Yeah. Well, if you're really an evil cabal and you are looking to take over the world, and you were strategic about things, you might want to disguise who you are or hijack somebody else and work through them. So if you're thinking about it and you are Israel or you are the CIA or whoever, and you had found a way to make it look like North Korea was the one perpetrating this, aggression, that would be great cover. That would offer you great cover. No one would ever suspect, if North Korea launched missiles, no one would ever suspect that it was actually, say, Israel behind it that had found a way to make that happen, or the CIA. I mean,
total deniability. That's the way the game's played. Yeah.
Yeah, and the first, it used to be that the first strike in the wars would be that you would go in there and you would take out all the communication areas or this country. Now, really, the first strike in the war is to hit our own media, our own population through our own media, soften us up to get the population on the side of a war against somebody else. So
Very
before
good
you go
point.
bombing another country, you have to sort of soft bomb us.
That's where the term false flag came from. That's what it's for.
Right. And it works like a charm. It's been It's been used for centuries for a very good reason. It's really effective.
Light off.
And it gets people fired up,
right.
and it plays on emotion, too. And back then, how did you ever really, how could you verify that actually happened? And even now, it's tough to verify that something
you can't verify
happened,
hardly anything anymore. It all ends up being the word of the mainstream media against the word of those who would see through it. Now, here's Sarah Sanders talking just for fun about they were doing a two-step today trying to figure out how to handle this issue of President Trump agreeing to go meet. See, the way he did it made it sound like he was going to go to Pyongyang, which he should be forced to do. That would be fun. If I were Kim, I wouldn't step 1 foot outside of Korea. No chance.
Oh, absolutely not.
No way.
No way.
All right. Here's Sarah Sanders at the White House. Now, listen to how she phrases this. This is a pretty smart woman.
Equal footing, in his view, on the world stage with the leader of the free world, and
I certainly
and the
disagree
president gets nothing.
Yeah, I definitely don't think that the president's getting nothing when we've already said, and frankly I've said it many times since walking in here in the last 10 minutes, that the president will not have the meeting without seeing concrete steps and concrete actions take place by North Korea. So the president would actually be getting something, and frankly, the world would be getting something. If we can get to a place where North Korea is denuclearizing, that is a massive step, and it's something that will make the entire globe much safer. And even President Moon has said that this is because of the leadership of President Trump.
Okay. BS. Just a bunch of crap. Trump said, yes, I'm going to meet him. Yes, I accept his invitation. There were no preconditions. Trump forgot to mention those. That's what this whole backstep was all about today. Oops, we forgot preconditions. We've got the leverage. We didn't announce it. We've got to reinstall it.
What a difficult job that is. I mean, that's a meat grinder. You see those people come and go from there. That is a job you don't want to put. You don't want it, and you don't want to put it on your resume. And you did something. I looked her up actually. I think it was yesterday, just to see. I saw some pictures of her, like a little bit younger. She seems like a totally normal person. She seems like a very nice, decent person. I think there's something about that job that just turns you into a.
Yeah, she's been pretty well
basically getting.
She's been rewired now.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know.
See, that's what Trump.
Be real honest about
Trump is a simple kind of Trump is kind of a simple man. All right, you can say he's a great negotiator and all that, but he reacted to an invitation. I accepted. He's thinking, wow, I'm going to go score. I'm going to make a big deal. I'm going to go down in history. Blah blah. He wasn't thinking about these preconditions and leverage and all the other machinations of big-time politics and military deals. Go ahead.
The art of the no deal, I guess. He if we're honest, though, the threat of nuclear war, to me, is less about North Korea and probably more about us. I mean...
90% us, of course.
If I were advising North Korea and they did for some reason have a nuclear missile program, I would tell them to hang on to it, because everyone that denuclearizes gets invaded or it ends badly for them. So
they get murdered. Saddam Hussein, Muammar Gaddafi. We can go on. There's more.
I'm not a fan of the regime there. Obviously, it's weird. I find it. You
know what, Charlie? So's ours. We got a weird regime
exactly.
too.
Yeah, they're just overtly weird. It's obvious that it's weird. At least here we sort of have it veiled. But I mean, what is more fitting that the one person that has made real contact with North Korea from the United States is Dennis Rodman? I mean,
pretty funny. Pretty funny.
It's perfect.
Yeah. You couldn't make this stuff up, right?
Rodman. No. But the mainstream media, not my favorite. It used to be that you would see something on the news, and that would be that would hold that would be the placeholder. That's how it's going. That's how it is until I hear otherwise. Until I learn otherwise. Otherwise, I'll just accept that story. Now, when I see something on the mainstream media, or the headline, I say, prove it. You no longer get the benefit of the doubt. You no longer get the assumption of that being the truth. In fact, when I see it on the mainstream media, my first thought is it is the exact opposite of that. So no more credibility for them. They don't deserve it. They shouldn't have it. They won't have it. And the sooner they go away, the better. And that, of course, brings us into this thing that we've seen over the last couple of days with CNN in particular, about the possibility that maybe they interfered with the sponsors of Alex Jones' shows. Now, we all have our opinions on Alex Jones' show, whether it's to be trusted, whether it's disinformation, whether it's
let's talk about that just for a minute. That if you all looked at the list of sponsors that allegedly quit the Alex Jones show, none of them made any sense to me. They're all big corporate sponsors. I know of no alternative news venue that has any big-time corporate sponsors like that. None. And therefore, I'm almost of a sense that they might have been put up on that program as sponsors, even though they really weren't. They just listed them as sponsors.
Yeah, so I look at the Zero Hedge article has a list of some of them. So they've got Nike, Acer, 20th Century Fox, Paramount, the Mormon Church, Moen, Expedia, Alibaba, Mozilla, HomeAway, NRA, Honey, Wix, and ClassPass. Now, years and years ago, I worked as a media planner for an ad agency. I was an assistant media planner. I was the lowest guy on the totem pole, but I understood how it worked there. So a company, our client, would buy media airtime on radio. Back then, we're talking about radio and TV mostly, not as much internet. But they could be exceptions. There could be that they could say, we want to advertise on radio, but we won't do Rush Limbaugh, Tom Likas, and Howard Stern or something like that. So in this article from Zero Hedge, they mention that. They say that the ads were purchased from a marketing agency and that some of these brands said we didn't know it was running during that. Now, that sounds like baloney, but it's actually true. It actually can happen. Now, they probably had filters in place. In fact, Zero Hedge mentions that. They say that there's exclusion filters to blacklist channels or content they don't wish to advertise with, and that's true as well. So it is possible that these big names said, yes, we're putting a pool of money to advertise on YouTube for this type of show, and then it could have run during InfoWars, and they could have not known. That actually happens, and that is true. So
there you go.
But for if this was just a regular old story and CNN was investigating it, whatever. But the fact that it was the CNN town hall and Alex Jones and a lot of people were very critical of it, and for good reason. And then for CNN to all of a sudden start to call those sponsors alleged, let's just go with the assumption that it actually did happen. Let's just go down that path. It might not, but let's just say that it did. If it did, that is reprehensible for CNN to call these sponsors and say, you're advertising on this guy's channel. That's a problem.
Right.
And as somebody that is they're not just a news organization, they're an advertising platform as well. They have a lot of ads running on there. It was almost implied like, if you're running on his show, I don't think we can have you on ours because we're on two different ends of the spectrum on this issue. And Alex Jones is fake news, and he was, really what it was is their feelings were hurt. CNN's feelings were hurt because they had this town hall, and Alex Jones and a lot of other people exposed it for the fraud that it was. And so they went out and made phone calls to this guy's advertising to the potential advertisers there.
Right.
To try and shake things
Charlie,
up.
do you really think that CNN has Zionist feelings to be hurt? Now, we have that quote from Jake Tapper and Jeff Zucker, the owner, or the CEO, or whatever the hell he is. When somebody asked him about, well, what about this town hall that's been exposed to have been a fraud that you people are responsible for? And Tapper said about the public, he laughed. He said, they'll get over it. They don't care.
Well,
they don't care.
That's not, they don't care about the people, but if, according to Jeff Zucker, quote, chaos is good for CNN. So they care about stirring it up. They just don't care that it affects the people. And, if this was some organization that had been around for a long, long time that had been shown to be, outstanding in their reporting standards and held to to the highest standard of journalism, that would be one thing. But this is CNN. This is the network that brought you Charles Jacko in 1991 for the Iraq War.
Brought us Ted Turner and Jane Fonda to us too.
And the other guy with the helmet, and you've got. This is the home of Don Lemon, who seriously wondered, honestly considered on his show that MH Flight 370 was swallowed up by a black hole.
Oh no!
So
he's a
this
flake.
This is CNN,
yeah.
And so I mean they are in no position to attack people, to come out and try and say that, listen, we're CNN. We're all about getting the news. I mean, nobody is further from getting the news correct than CNN. They don't care anymore. And
good statement.
They don't care that you know it. They stopped caring that you were able to figure this out a very long time ago.
That's right.
And, So a town hall put together by CNN that looked, that was totally filled with shills in the audience. What a surprise. I mean, who wasn't expecting that? I've got a great quote from Wolf Blitzer that I put in my book. It says, when I finished grad school, I sort of fell into journalism. Someone mentioned that there was an entry-level job at Reuters news agency. I applied, and to my amazement, I got the job. Wolf Blitzer. So, yes, there you go. The guy that accidentally got hired in journalism is going to get on TV and lecture us about fake news. Mm-hmm. Give me a break.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, it's preposterous. But
that is exactly what it is.
It's CNN. And remember, they're owned by AOL Time Warner, so they have huge reach. If they do that, if they go after sponsors and they start to make noise and they start to try and pressure sponsors, you're talking about a company that owns Warner Brothers, Castle Rock, New Line Cinema, HBO, Cinemax, TBS, TNT, Headline News, Turner Classic, Sports Illustrated, Time, Fortune, People Magazine. I mean, they can get you from every direction. Yep. So it's one of those things where these potential sponsors of InfoWars, if they actually were doing that, they have to think big picture, too. They have to understand that if they pick a fight with CNN, they've actually picked a fight with AOL Time Warner, and that could be a huge deal. So for them to walk away from InfoWars, regardless of how you feel about InfoWars, it should matter to all of us because it starts with InfoWars, and it goes from there. And next thing you know, it's Rense Radio, and it's all the other shows that we listen to. And it's, that Jeff Rense, he's a problem. You got to consider this, and then you've got pressure on these, and they're doing it. You see it happening with David Icke.
I got a note from David this morning. He wrote to me and sent me that video right away, and I put it up.
He had a meeting at the police station for them to explain what it was.
David has really come a long way in the last year in terms of putting it right. He always did, but he is really putting it on the table now in terms of world ultra-Zionism. He's not mincing words anymore at all.
No amount of credit for waking me up like a lot of people did. He was part of that. He was a huge part of that, and I have a lot of respect for him, and I thank him very much for that. And I think that we all need to support these guys. Like I said, even if InfoWars isn't your favorite, even if you go, I'm sort of indifferent to them, it's a battle that won't stop there.
See, what we're up against here is world Zionism, which literally has walked in, taken control of, developed, and turned the internet into the giant, the ultimate of communications platforms, all right? They're privately owned entities. I'm talking about Facebook. I'm talking about, you name it, Google, YouTube, it doesn't matter. They're all owned by the same tribe. And they can pull the plug on all of us legally because they're private companies anytime they want. Good luck suing them. It ain't going to happen. Now, you're seeing YouTube shut down channel after channel. You're seeing, now I'm told, that WordPress, and I would say 65 to 70% of all the alternative media internet sites are using WordPress. WordPress has a terms and conditions, okay? And if they want to say that you're not meeting their terms and conditions, your site is gone. It'll take you months to recover. They can pull the plug on you and the vast majority of alternative news sites that are using WordPress anytime they want. Where's the antitrust? This is all monopoly. It's all illegal. The domination of the internet should be rife with antitrust lawsuits by now. Not a one. Not a one.
Well, if you look back on the Bilderberg in 1991, for those listening that are unsure if there is a conspiracy between all of the major news media, let me give you a quote from David Rockefeller. "We're grateful to the Washington Post, New York Times, Time Magazine, and other great publications whose directors have attended our meetings and respected their promises of discretion for almost 40 years. It would have been impossible for us to develop our plan for the world if we had been subjected to the lights of publicity during those years. But the world is now more sophisticated and prepared to march towards a world government. The supernatural sovereignty of an intellectual elite and world bankers is surely preferable to the national autodetermination practiced in past centuries." That's it. The media is on board with the New World Order.
The media is the brainwashing tentacle of the New World Order. That's what they use to control the sheep, and they do a hell of a job of it. Oh yeah,
got to give them credit. They think long term, and they have the tools at their disposal. Yeah, the media has been amazing for silencing the issues that they want silenced, for promoting the issues that they want the public to think about, and then to create these false fights between left and right, red and blue. Whatever.
Oh, it's all staged. It's all crap. It's a tawdry sideshow of lies and deceit. It really is. It's ridiculous. Think of the bicycle wheel. In the center, you got the international, globalist, Zionist, bankster elite, and you have spokes going out from the center hub to the entire wheel. And wherever those spokes happen to land, you got a group, you got an interest, you got some kind of a power focus that they control. Spaced out on that wheel, Democrats, Republicans, Greens, left, right, it doesn't matter. It's all part of the same wheel, controlled and connected to the same hub. So they've got it. They've got it. Back in a minute with Charlie. Hang on. Okay, and we're back talking with Charlie Robinson. And there's a ton going on out here, and it's not going to slow down. So if the pace is too much for you, well, you better get rid of it or just find something else to do. And I wouldn't blame you. It's pretty much overwhelming. It's constant. It's never what we're told. It's always deceitful. Look at the Parkland shooting in Florida. Worse and worse and worse. Just more details popping up all the time, which let us know that it is yet another construct, another false flag, another deceitful destruction of human life. For whom? For people who run the show, who don't have the moral constraints or boundaries that we do. They don't care. They're psycho and sociopaths. We care. That's our weakness. They laugh at us.
It's true. It's true. And I thought that we had seen the end of this with Sandy Hook. And I don't know why I believed that it would end after that.
Oh, no, they just got warmed up. No, it's too easy.
Yeah, they just got warmed up. Yeah, I mistakenly thought that maybe there would be some internal discussion about, perhaps maybe we've taken this nonsense too far. This whole show. Have you had Ole Dammegard on your show before?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Yeah, he's got a great theory, and one I think that I am buying into. He thinks it's a traveling road show, sort of like a rock band that's on the road, flying in and out of NATO bases, setting these things up. He's gone so far as to look at signs from events that have happened to project where the next one is going to be. For example, there was a shooting and someone was wearing girls wearing a pair of sweatpants, and down the side in huge letters it said Las Vegas. Now that on its own wouldn't normally wouldn't make you think of anything, but he has shown this history of event after event after event, little things, little pictures, little logos or something. If you get into the details, you see it and you go, that looks unusual. For instance, like when the London 7/7 bombing, the big double-decker bus that blew up, it blew up on in front of the Tavistock Institute or on Tavistock Street or something.
Right on the street.
And yeah,
crazy.
not an accident. Yeah, yeah. And then if you look at the pictures of the bus itself, there's advertisements that are on the bus. That were obviously on the bus for a while, but the advertisement says I don't know exactly, but it says something like, unbelievable terror you won't believe. It was like an ad for some movie or something.
Right.
But in and of itself, it doesn't mean anything. But when you look at this big picture and you start to string them together, you go, you know what? These bastards are sitting back there laughing at us. This is staged. It's manipulated. It's pre-planned.
Look at Las Vegas.
Nothing that's happening is accidental.
The grandest display of all may be Las Vegas. They slaughtered. I think they may have killed 100. Who knows? I don't think that 57 is correct or 58. Probably Paddock never fired a shot. Nothing was seen from his room. No muzzle flash.
Yeah.
We have muzzle flash from a room 7 stories above his, and the top 5 floors owned by Walid bin Talal. We have muzzle flash coming from at least 2 helicopters, multiple times on multiple videos. We've got 3 shooters on an RV roof we've pegged. We've got muzzle flash coming from the Luxor on the 4th or 5th story of that stair-step structure on the outside. So we have ground shooting. We've got piles of brass ammo casing in the Tropicana parking lot aimed at the venue where the people were flowing out of. So you've got all these indications. And then you have the man who was led out of the Tropicana casino by the group of 6 or 7 armed, heavily armed. They weren't from one department. They were grabbed together and put together to protect this guy. That was probably MBS. The same hairline, same general physiology, shaved his beard off, and was set up to be killed over there. It didn't work, so the slaughter commenced.
They also had the runway shut down.
Yes.
Which was
yes,
and not just shut down, but they said there's shooters on the runway.
No, I think it was Gate 14 completely shut down. Yeah. Shooters on the runway.
Look, it's.
You live in Las Vegas, and nobody talks about it anymore. It never happened, right?
Well, first of all, it also happened in front of a big obelisk, which Ola Damagard will also tell you is prominent in many of these, either nearby, or very nearby. And so it's one of those things where it's like, hey, you might not believe in it. It might not mean anything to you, but these guys, it means something to them. So you look for these signals, you look for these signs, like an obelisk. But yeah, as far as has it disappeared from the news in Las Vegas? Of course, because you have an economic component, and it's bad for business. So you've got these casinos that have billions of dollars at stake. You have a tourism industry. You have a trade show industry, which is gigantic, and these things run on confidence. I mean, they can't have you thinking that is an unsafe place. And to be honest, for as long as I've been in Las Vegas, it's safe. I've never felt unsafe on the Strip, in part because there are thousands of cameras everywhere. Now, normally I'm against cameras. I mean, I'm against public cameras everywhere. But when you're in a casino and you have hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars of chips on the tables and people coming in and going and multiple entrances, I get it. I understand why you would have the need for the cameras. But why have they not been released to the public? Everything else, I mean, with the exception of the Pentagon.
Do we see the video from? Do we see video from inside the Mandalay Bay? Do we see video of the floor?
No.
32nd floor? No. Do we see the stair? No, we don't see any. What about Parkland? Videos, surveillance videos all over Parkland High School. Do we see any? No.
No. And the reaction to the anomalies in Las Vegas and the reaction by the media and the reaction by the media to the anomalies in Parkland are similar, in that what you would think the media would say is, as you're interviewing someone, well, I was in the Bellagio lobby and there was shooting going on there. You would think the media would say, wait, what? Tell us about that.
Of course.
Tell us more about this.
Right.
You were at the Tropicana and there was shooting? You were there and there was shooting? Or, hey, I was in Parkland High School and I stuck my head out.
At Planet Hollywood? Did you see the woman who was in Planet Hollywood? Yeah.
Yeah. All these things, I don't know.
Caesars?
Might have been an interesting story, an interesting lead, but instead of that being, we are getting reports that they were shooting all over the place. What you got was silence, and you got not only silence but intimidation of those people that were saying anything about that. That is an unnatural reaction for the media. If you have an honest media, which of course we do not, but if you have an honest media, they would say, this stinks. I want to know
all
more
over
about
that.
This. All over it. The police chief that comes out there and says, tries to kick Laura Loom around. All this. What? What are you doing? The rest of the journalists in that room should have turned around and said to the police chief, "Shut up! That's not how it works. You don't get to just come around and tell the media that you're not talking to them. You're kicking some out, but some can stay. I mean, what's going on here?" So their reaction to the event in Las Vegas, much like their reaction to the event in Parkland, was totally suspect to me. And there may not have been anything wrong in any of these places. I think there was, but let's just say that there wasn't. But if there wasn't, why is their reaction so defensive? They are so scared that somebody's going to dig up something. If you've got nothing to hide, then what do you care if the journalists are poking around?
Really
but
good
the fact
point,
that their reaction
Charlie.
was so, they just immediately started shutting down websites. They started shutting down reporters. You've got Wolfgang Halbig as an example of somebody who, 5-6 years ago had police showing up on his doorstep when he had the audacity to question this. So when these things start happening, everyone should be suspicious. Now, you say, well, people are saying that nobody died at Parkland, or someone's saying everybody died at Parkland. Look, we'll sort that out soon enough. But what we do know for a fact is that the media is acting very suspicious. The police is acting very suspicious. The police chiefs are always screwballs. That guy in Parkland, in the area
Sheriff
of Parkland,
Israel, the Broward County
Israel,
Sheriff,
is a piece of work. Much like Sheriff Lombardo in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
And there's a movie that a documentary that just came out, and I'm spacing on the name of it, but it was a documentary about a guy
Vegas?
about Las Vegas, about being arrested by the police. It didn't have anything to do with the shooting. It just so happened that he was filming it during that time.
I see.
And he was I wish I had the name of it, but it's something, he documented how Lombardo and his staff flipped out on him. This was a guy who just happened to be a reporter, but he saw somebody getting manhandled by the police. So he called the police on the police, and the police came and arrested him, beat him up, put him in jail for a couple days, did all kinds of shady things to him. And now he made this movie, and now they won't show it in Las Vegas. And but it was exposing Lombardo, but it had actually nothing to do with the shooting itself. But it was interesting to see it from now. You've got a couple different angles coming in about the corruption in the Las Vegas in Metro there. And look, I don't know. I don't have firsthand information about that stuff, so I can't speak about whether or not that police department.
Well, I think what we can say
in
the big picture, as we look at it, is that clearly we are being manipulated nonstop.
Oh yeah. When they tell you what you're not allowed to think, that is that's when you need to wake up. Obviously you're awake, your listeners are awake, or at least in some form of waking up. And things like this, it seems like it's accelerating. And the reason why I think it's accelerating is because they realize they have a gigantic problem on their hands. The media has some really bad credibility issues. The police have credibility issues. The FBI has serious credibility issues. And it's as if they are trying to put things in high speed before everybody figures it out.
They put the pedal to the metal, and it's all about chaos now. The more chaos, the more confusion, the more people will back away from it. They don't want anything to do with it. They just can't process it. They can't keep the dots connected. It's crazy out there. The noise is overwhelming. Noise.
For those with YouTube channels that are getting shut down, I think it's important to remember that you start taking the most flack when you're right over the target. So they're on to something.
Yeah.
We can't stand for it. Honestly, if it starts with the say, so to speak, right wing channels that are saying something that the media doesn't like, and they go away.
Well, once they get away with it, there'll be no stopping any of it.
They won't stop there. They'll pick everybody off, and it's incremental, so that it's not in your face and overwhelming. But the old Joseph Goebbels: if you tell a lie big enough and keep repeating it, people will eventually come to believe it.
One of the most true statements ever.
Yeah.
It's all about repetition.
For sure. Yeah. Repetition and suppression of dissenting voices and
we have no access. Charlie, we have no access. How are we going to present our case, our views? We don't always agree on everything, but how are we going to present divergent views to the masses for consideration when we're shut out? We have no access.
I don't know that the masses are ready for it. I think it might be grassroots. It might be that the listeners of shows like this get it. They spread the word to people in their circle of influence, their family, their friends, and they're able to build on this. Hey, I know you said I was crazy about 9/11, but what about and Sandy Hook? But now here we go. Like I've been able to get to the point where I've said to people, the minute an event started, the San Bernardino event in particular, I said, I'm going to tell you 5 things that are going to happen in the next 24 hours, and I'm going to write them down. Here they are. And you tell me if these happen, am I psychic or do I just understand what the plan is? And I wrote them down. Sure enough, they all happened.
Very interesting.
That the media would report that it would be Muslims but people early on would report that it was white guys wearing military fatigues. Boom, that happened. Yeah. The media would ransack the houses and discover,
Oh, that was incredible. That was absolutely incredible when the media was let to run roughshod over the actual evidence. Incredible.
And what's funny about it is that if you remember, they said that this apartment they were using it to make bombs, but then they let the media in there, which made me laugh because I thought, you know what? If the police are probably trying to kill 2 birds with one stone, they're making bombs in there. So let's invite the media in and see if they'll blow themselves up. It's just
very
preposterous, the whole thing. And the fact that the media took it and ran with it shows that they've given up. They don't care.
No, they all have paychecks, and they're all signed by somebody, and they don't want to lose that paycheck. And then above that, in terms of the media, you've got ego. They're a celebrity. That's the quickest way to start them now there is. Become a media celebrity. And it's a sad commentary, but it's true. Very true.
Yeah. Well, if you're Anderson Cooper and you're making a couple $1 million a year and you grow a conscience one night, what are you going to do? Are you going to go into work and quit? You could, and that would be noble, but there's 100 guys behind you that'll take that job.
More than that.
So they wind up in this dilemma where they think, you know what? Maybe my nose will disappear on a green screen, and people will laugh at me, and they'll know that I'm a total phony. But I can buy that nice, $8 million condo and not have to worry
95% of the media people that you see have already sold out. It's not a question of will they. They sold out to get where they are. Believe it. It's done. I brought a lot of people into the business. I was a television news director and anchorman for 12 years. And I brought many, many people into the business. And I guarantee you the number one drive was not about journalism. It was not about money. It was about celebrity in most all cases. They wanted that camera time. They wanted on air. They wanted to be part of the celebrity machine. That's what it was. Sad to say, but true.
And I would imagine that's magnified 100-fold by now because we're such a celebrity-driven.
It's only gotten way worse.
Well, I commend you for taking a step back out of that, because I could imagine that being intoxicating between the money and the fame and the importance and the interest and all of that. That could be a really fun way to spend your life, provided that you're doing something you like and doing something with integrity. But with the minute you have to sell out or compromise your values, that paycheck would be looking a little bit. It just wouldn't feel the same, I would imagine. So.
You're right. No, you're totally right. I just had enough. I could see where television news was going. It was already on the way. It wasn't just ambulance chasing. They were turning into horrors.
Yeah.
So
the great William Casey, CIA director, said it best. We'll know our disinformation program is complete when everything the American public believes is false. I would say mission accomplished.
I would agree. Sad to
Sadly.
say. Well, there'll be another one along before long. Just to watch. This North Korea thing is very interesting. Trump didn't do it right, and they had to back up and try and reset the scene. And it's all being orchestrated. I just personally sick about all these things. They make me ill. I hope Kim stands his ground. His people suffered enough in the Korean War. He's got a right to self-defense as a nation, as a people. And I think that's so do the Iranians. I mean, all of these so-called villains, when you look at them, who has Iran invaded or attacked lately, other than the Iran-Iraq war, which was our doing entirely?
Nobody. I mean, the boogeymen that our government creates with the help of the mainstream media is embarrassing, and we should be ashamed. And I think the people that have taken a step back can see it for what it is, which is a sham.
They do. Charlie, you're right. But let me say one thing. The danger is when they step back and see it, the smart people, they're so smart that they keep stepping back and they get the hell away from it. And I don't blame them. I'm not knocking that at all. Who wants this? When you realize you can't change it, when you realize it's game, set, and match, it is time to make other plans. And if you want to do that, more power to you. If you want to stay in the fight, fine. I'll be here, and Charlie will be here, and the rest of the people who participate, doing our best. So if you want to tune in, we'll try and bring you up to date to the best of our ability. But it is being run by people to whom human life means nothing. You got to remember that first and foremost, and that's the sad truth.
Well, I stepped back a couple times until I got to the point where I had decided that I wanted to do my part, and my part was to write the book.
Tell them the name of the book again, Charlie. It's a great book. It really is.
It's The Octopus of Global Control. It's available on Amazon as a paperback and as a Kindle. I quoted 500 professionals and people that were involved in some of the biggest events in world history, and I blended that with my dark sense of humor to allow people to sort of get through the book and digest these really serious and difficult and important topics, but laugh while doing it, even though some of it's a little bit inappropriate. It's okay. So it's a great book if you've got family or friends or somebody in your life that is having a hard time understanding this, and you want to give it one last shot and say, hey, listen, I think there's something this might make a little bit of sense to you about some of these events that have happened. If you open your mind and read this, you might be able to understand what's going on, and you might not think I'm such a crazy conspiracy theorist after all. As the great Jim Marrs once said, it's not a conspiracy theory if you can prove it. So I know God knows I went through that of ruining Thanksgiving dinners by bringing up 9/11 and Building 7 and all that stuff. So
all true. Charlie, thanks for the time Friday night. Take care of yourself. We'll talk to you again soon. Thanks for everything you've done. Keep at it.
Anytime. Thank you so much, Jeff. Bye.
All righty. Good night. Okay. That's Charlie Robinson, and it is Friday night. Have a great weekend. Take care, and keep those seatbelts buckled, because it's only going to get bumpier. Be well, and we'll talk soon.